Throughout history, humanity has faced countless challenges and adversities. Wars, diseases, natural disasters. The list is endless. However, in the midst of these difficulties, exceptional individuals have always emerged who have demonstrated extraordinary strength and resilience. These people, guided by the principles of Stoicism, have managed to overcome seemingly insurmountable obstacles and inspire others to do the same. In this video, we will explore 10 Stoic stories that will leave you speechless. We will discover how these men and women faced their challenges with courage, serenity, and wisdom, teaching us valuable lessons about the power of the human mind and the importance of living a virtuous life. Observing the virtues in action, embodied in the people around us, is an inspiring experience like no other. Witnessing the qualities we value manifest in real life through the actions and behavior of others fills us with deep satisfaction and admiration. It is as if we are witnessing the embodiment of our highest ideals, a tangible demonstration that what we consider valuable and admirable is possible to achieve. This experience not only fills us with joy and admiration, but also motivates us to be better people. By seeing virtues exemplified in others, we are inspired to cultivate them in ourselves. We realize that we can aspire to be more compassionate, fair, brave, or wise, and we feel compelled to take the path towards self-improvement. Furthermore, observing virtues in action gives us the opportunity to learn from others. We can appreciate how they have developed and applied these qualities in their own lives, and we can take their experiences as an example for our own personal growth. In this way, observing the virtues in others becomes a source of learning and personal development. That is why today I will tell you about the profound goodness of many Stoics and people who embody these ideals of justice, good character, values, and above all, good actions. No one is born a saint. Even those we greatly admire and hold in high regard were not born that way. They became that way through their life journey, carrying within them the same flaws that we all possess. Forgiveness. The story of Mahatma Gandhi. When Gandhi was a child, he stole money from his brother. Overcome with guilt, Gandhi writes a letter of repentance, which he delivers to his father on his deathbed. His father takes the letter, sits on the bed and reads it, and when he finishes, he tears it up, offering a moment of forgiveness and grace that shaped Gandhi's life. With guilt and shame all his life, but his father's forgiveness left a lasting impact. Gandhi described himself as a politician trying to be a saint, not the other way around. The point is that striving to be better is what makes us great. When you see someone who is generous, forgiving, or without a big ego, don't assume that they are naturally better or born that way. This mentality lets you off the hook and undermines the effort they put into becoming that way. Appreciate what we have. An inspiring story involves Kurt Vonnegut, recognized for his masterpiece Slaughterhouse-Five, and Joseph Heller, famous for his biting anti-war satire Catch-22, shared a deep reflection during a party at the house of a billionaire. Vonnegut, in a somewhat provocative tone, commented to Heller, "Do you realize that the owner of this mansion has made more money this week than you will earn from Catch-22 in your entire life?" Heller, without flinching, responded with a phrase full of wisdom, "But I have something that he can never have." Intrigued, Vonnegut inquired, "And what is that, Joseph?" Calmly, Heller replied, "I know what is enough." This simple phrase contains a profound lesson about happiness and personal satisfaction. It is not about accumulating endless wealth, but about recognizing and appreciating what you already have. True wealth lies in inner peace and gratitude for the simple things in life. Vonnegut and Heller's anecdote reminds us that happiness is not measured in monetary terms, but in the ability to find happiness in what surrounds us and in living a life full of meaning. This inspiring story invites us to reflect on our own priorities and cultivate an abundance mentality, valuing what we have and not obsessing over what we lack. Knowing what is enough is a vital formula for all aspects of our lives. It is a master key to being satisfied and even to getting closer to happiness more easily. If you don't consider what you have enough, you will never be happy, even if you rule the world. Acknowledging enough allows you to see everything else as an advantage. On the other hand, think that what I have is good, everything else is extra profit. All you get is a bonus and the rest of your life is amazing. Self-discovery, growth and gratitude. Marcus Aurelius is often extolled as a perfect example of a philosopher king. However, this simplistic view ignores the essence of his writings. The Meditations are not an infallible guide, but a record of his own process of self-examination and personal growth. Marcus Aurelius, like any human being, was shaped by the people around him. Key figures in his training were Antonino Pio, his adoptive father, and Rustico, his philosophy teacher. Adoption was a common practice in ancient Rome, and Emperor Hadrian, lacking a natural heir, saw extraordinary potential in the young Marcus Aurelius. He took responsibility for his training and guided him to the leadership of the empire. For 2 decades, Marcus Aurelius lived under the tutelage of Antoninus, a man who, despite his power, maintained admirable integrity. Antoninus's influence was profound and left an indelible mark on the character of the future emperor. Proof of this deep gratitude is the extensive tribute that Marcus Aurelius dedicates to Antoninus in the first pages of his Meditations. Instead of presenting us as a perfect being, Marcus Aurelius offers us an intimate portrait of his struggles and reflections. His Meditations are an invitation to embark on our own journey of self-discovery and personal growth, inspiring us to be the best version of ourselves, keeping our promises. At a party in San Francisco, several literary icons were present, including Jack Kerouac, Allen Ginsberg, and the young poet Diane De Prima. It was still early when Diane said goodbye to her friends, stating that she had promised her children's nanny not to return late. Kerouac criticized her by suggesting that neglecting her parental duties was necessary for her writing career. Prima, however, believed that keeping her word to her nanny was as crucial as her commitment to her art. This discipline, both for herself and for others, reflected her moral code and the Stoic virtue of discipline and justice. This story highlights how the Stoic virtues intersect and emphasizes the importance of keeping promises to oneself and others. If you say, "I'll be there right now," that's what you have to do. If you tell someone you will support them, you should honor your word, even if you would rather not. Even if it feels like a distraction, you have to do it. You have to keep your word to yourself and to others, and that is what the virtue of justice is all about. The Stoic idea is about the words we keep, the promises we keep to ourselves. They have to be sacred. Determination and inner strength. Portia, the forgotten heroine. Although the story of the assassination of Julius Caesar focuses on the figure of Brutus, we cannot ignore the fundamental role played by his wife Portia. Often relegated to the background, Portia proved to be a woman of great strength and determination, not only supporting the plot against Caesar, but also playing a crucial role on the eve of the assassination. Aware of Brutus's doubts and fears about the possibility of being tortured and revealing the conspirators' plans, Portia devised a plan to test her own willpower. She inflicted a wound on her thigh and endured the pain in silence, proving to Brutus that she was also capable of enduring physical suffering without faltering. This act of bravery not only reaffirmed the love and trust between Portia and Brutus, but also served as a reminder of the importance of determination and inner strength on the path to the success of their enterprise. Portia was not only the wife of a conspirator, but a hero in her own right. Her intelligence, bravery, and unconditional support were fundamental pillars for Brutus in one of the most decisive moments in Roman history. Meet our objectives despite the difficulties. Buckminster Fuller was a failed architect. He had just been kicked out of Harvard, had a drinking problem, and had just buried one of his children. Fuller was considering suicide. He was looking at Lake Michigan, and he said, "I'm just going to swim far enough until I drown." He was just contemplating his losses, the mistakes made. He thought it was all over for him. Suddenly, a voice inside him says, "How dare you? You have potential. You have gifts to contribute to humanity. You have an obligation to do so, and you are ruining it." Stepped back as he realized his potential and his obligations to humanity, pulling him out of the abyss and into his influential career. That voice brings him back from the edge, and he becomes a fascinating character. Influential and hopefully, we would say, He also does things right with his kids and his spouse and his family, and he's also like a nice human being, and decent. This story illustrates the Stoic idea that we must achieve our goals despite difficulties. Your value is not determined by your position. Ulysses S. Grant was a promising young military officer who graduated from West Point and served honorably in the Mexican-American War. But then something goes wrong. Maybe it's the drink, or maybe it's that he hates the military. He retires and basically ends up working for his father, selling firewood on the side of the road. One of his old friends from West Point, who is on his way up through the ranks, is embarrassed to see his friend in such conditions and says, "My God, what are you doing?" Grant just looks at him and answers, "I'm solving the problem of poverty," which means that Grant doesn't care that he's doing a menial job or that it's a humiliating occupation. All he cares about is supporting his family. Family. I don't think this says anything about him as a person, but just a few years later, Grant would be the head of a huge army, and a few years later, he would be the President of the United States. For the Stoics, this idea that comes from Marcus Aurelius says that we must accept without arrogance. Seeing with indifference, meaning don't let the lower position or the high position change who you are. None of that goes to your head, you know. None of that says anything about you as a person. Only you know who you are as a person, and that is what really matters. One's worth is not determined by one's position, but by one's character and endurance. We do not control the events. The story of the founding of Stoicism involves Zeno of Citium, who comes from a long family of successful merchants and suffers a shipwreck where he loses everything. Zeno arrived in Athens, and there he discovered philosophy, and this is how Stoicism began. Zenon reflects on this trip, where a shipwreck that he would never have wanted to happen had changed the entire course of his life for the better. Reflecting on this, Zeno said, "I made a prosperous voyage when I suffered a shipwreck," illustrating that the worst events can lead to the greatest growth if we respond wisely. This embodies the Stoic belief that we do not control events, but we can control our responses. We don't control what goes wrong. Things are going to happen, but we can control how we respond. We control what we turn them into, and whatever it is, whatever metaphorical shipwreck you're going through, you can turn it into a prosperous journey if you think about it that way. Manner. The ideas of Zeno of Citium had a significant impact on Western thought, influencing philosophers, writers, and political leaders for centuries. Stoicism was particularly popular during the Roman era, and figures such as Seneca, Marcus Aurelius, and Epictetus became leading exponents of this philosophical school. Zeno of Citium is considered one of the most important philosophers in Western history. His philosophy of Stoicism continues to be relevant today, offering guidance for living a virtuous and fulfilling life despite difficulties. Leadership. During the Antonine Plague, which devastated the Roman Empire between 165 and 180 AD, Emperor Marcus Aurelius faced an unprecedented situation. A terrible disease that decimated the population, a depleted imperial treasury, and the threat that the empire would collapse, would crumble. Marcus Aurelius, as a Stoic philosopher, turned to his philosophy to face the crisis with serenity and strength. He emphasized the importance of accepting what you cannot control and focusing on what you can, such as your own actions and thoughts. Marcus Aurelius took a number of measures, such as selling the palace furniture, including his own robes and jewelry, to raise funds. The emperor imposed quarantine in the most affected cities, promoted hygiene and disinfection measures, among others. Marcus Aurelius's actions had a significant impact on the course of the plague. It is estimated that the disease may have caused the death of up to a third of the population of the Roman Empire. However, thanks to the measures taken by Marcus Aurelius, the empire was able to avoid a total collapse, and the plague was finally controlled. Marcus Aurelius's actions during the Antonine Plague made him one of the most admired Roman emperors in history. Despite the difficulties, he managed to maintain the unity of the empire, protect its population, and lay the foundations for its recovery. His legacy as a philosopher and emperor remains relevant to this day. Do the best you can. Jimmy Carter. We all think of Jimmy Carter as a president and a humanitarian, but sometimes we forget that he served in the United States Navy. In 1943, during World War II, Carter was accepted into the Naval Academy in Annapolis, Maryland, where the emphasis was on instilling in cadets the values of courage, integrity, and justice. Carter did not graduate until after World War II ended, but he ranked at the top of his class. After several short-term assignments, Carter joined the nuclear submarine program under the command of Admiral Hyman Rickover. The year 1948 marked a turning point in his career. After entering the submarine school, he was sent to the Pacific, where his talent led him to be selected by Admiral Hyman Rickover to be part of the innovative nuclear submarine program. Admiral Rickover was like Carter's father, fussy, demanding, and stingy with praise. Perhaps that's why Rickover had as much influence on Carter as his parents had. Rickover was famous in the Navy for demanding near absolute perfection from those who worked under his command. Their expectations of Carter, then 28, were no different. The young lieutenant was being groomed as an engineering officer for the nuclear plant aboard the USS Seawolf, the Navy's second nuclear submarine, and was designing the training program for his enlisted nuclear personnel. When Rickover asked Carter if he had given his all at the academy, Carter responded, "You know what? No, I didn't always do my best." Then Rick said, "Why not?" And then he just got up and left. Carter decided to do the best he could from that point on. That question followed Jimmy Carter for the rest of his life, shaping his campaign and his philosophy of life. For great people, it is not just about achievements, but they strive to do the best they can at all times. Rickover taught Carter to maintain high standards and fully understand problems to solve them. Carter would carry these values to the White House, along with his father and Rickover's shared trait of expecting the best in others, without often recognizing when they excelled. The value of people is not just about achievements, but rather that they strive to do the best they can at all times. Always seen as a great president, he defined his exemplary post-presidency life by emphasizing true greatness and striving to do the best in every situation. The stories we have told today are just a few examples of the countless people who have been inspired by Stoicism to overcome challenges and live a virtuous life. Their examples remind us that we all have the potential to develop the inner strength and wisdom necessary to face any obstacle that comes our way. If you feel inspired by these stories, I invite you to learn more about Stoicism and how you can apply its principles in your own life. By doing so, you can discover a path to a more fulfilling, meaningful, and resilient life. If you liked this video, give us a like and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Share your experiences and tell us about the characters who have served as an example and inspiration for you. Thank you for joining me. I invite you, together, to continue learning and growing under the guidance of timeless Stoic wisdom.